A dying lion shows up at a ranger station. What happens next is unbelievable. It was an ordinary morning when the impossible happened. A young lion, barely alive, collapsed at the entrance of a remote ranger station. His golden coat was matted with dust and blood, his breathing shallow and labored. The rangers who found him couldn't believe their eyes. Lions never came this close to human settlements. Yet here he was, hundreds of miles from where he belonged, his amber eyes pleading for help. David, a seasoned ranger with 15 years of experience, was the first to spot the massive creature sprawled across the station's doorstep. His heart hammered in his chest as he called out to his colleagues. "We've got a situation here," he shouted, his voice tight with urgency. 2 other rangers rushed to his side, and together they approached the lion cautiously. Every instinct told them to keep their distance, but something about this animal was different. He wasn't aggressive or territorial. He was broken, defeated, and desperate. The lion's magnificent body, which should have radiated raw power, now trembled with exhaustion. One of his front paws was grotesquely swollen, the fur around it stained dark red. Deep gashes marked his flank, and his ribs protruded beneath his once glossy coat. Most striking of all were his eyes. They held an expression David had never seen in a wild predator before. It was a look of surrender, of trust, of silent supplication. "He's badly injured," David whispered to his colleagues. "We can't just leave him here to die." The question that haunted everyone was simple yet impossible to answer. How had he gotten here? Lions didn't wander this far from their natural habitat by accident. Had he been swept away by a flooding river during the rainy season? Had he followed prey for days, losing his way in unfamiliar territory? Or had something more sinister driven him from his home? Poachers, perhaps? Or conflict with a rival pride? Whatever the reason, this young lion had traveled an unimaginable distance. Over 400 miles of harsh terrain separated this village from the nearest savanna. The journey would have been grueling even for a healthy animal. For one wounded and alone, it should have been impossible. David immediately contacted the Wildlife Protection Agency, and within hours, a team of specialists arrived with medical supplies and tranquilizers. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a veterinarian with extensive experience treating big cats, took charge of the operation. "We need to move fast," she said, kneeling beside the lion while keeping a respectful distance. "He's severely dehydrated and malnourished. That paw wound is infected, probably happened days ago." The team worked with practiced efficiency. They sedated the lion just enough to examine him without causing additional stress. His injured paw was carefully cleaned and bandaged. An IV line delivered much-needed fluids into his bloodstream. When they offered him water, he drank with desperate, grateful gulps. As the villagers gathered to watch, word of the mysterious visitor spread like wildfire. Children pressed against the safety barriers, their eyes wide with wonder. Elderly residents who had lived their entire lives without seeing a lion in person stood in reverent silence. Someone suggested they name him Leo, and the name stuck immediately. Over the following days, Leo became a local celebrity. Villagers brought offerings of meat, though the rangers carefully monitored his diet to avoid overwhelming his weakened digestive system. People spoke in hushed tones around him, instinctively understanding that this was a sacred moment, a wild soul seeking refuge in the world of humans. But despite the care and attention, Leo's gaze constantly drifted toward the horizon. Dr. Mitchell noticed it immediately. "He doesn't belong here," she told David one evening as they watched the lion rest. "No matter how much we help him, His heart is in the wild. We need to get him home." Samuel Gardner, the regional wildlife director, arrived to assess the situation. He'd seen cases like this before, animals displaced by natural disasters or human encroachment, but never one this extreme. "Getting him back won't be easy," Samuel explained to the gathered officials and rangers. "He's too weak to make the journey on foot, and transporting a wild lion by vehicle over that terrain is nearly impossible." That's when Regional Governor Thomas Mitchell proposed something unprecedented: an emergency helicopter transport. The idea was met with stunned silence. Airlifting a wild lion? It had never been attempted in their region. The logistics alone were daunting, not to mention the danger. But as they looked at Leo, still gazing longingly toward the distant grasslands he could smell but not see, they knew there was no alternative. The approval came through faster than anyone expected. The National Wildlife Service greenlit the operation, providing both funding and resources. Rangers constructed a specialized transport cage with ventilation holes and padded walls. Dr. Mitchell prepared sedatives calibrated precisely to Leo's weight and condition. The entire village threw itself into the preparations. It was no longer just about saving one lion. It had become a symbol of hope, a testament to what humans could do when they chose compassion over convenience. On the morning of the transport, the entire village gathered to say goodbye. Leo, sedated but comfortable, was carefully loaded into the cage and then hoisted into the waiting helicopter. The rotor blades whipped up clouds of dust as villagers waved, many with tears streaming down their faces. Inside the helicopter, Dr. Mitchell and wildlife expert Alexander Shaw monitored Leo's vital signs. "Heart rate stable," Alexander reported, checking the medical readout. "Everything looks good." For the first few hours, the flight proceeded smoothly. The landscape below transformed from village to scrubland to the endless golden expanse of the savanna. This was Leo's kingdom, and with every mile they brought him closer to home. Then, suddenly, a deep thud echoed through the cabin. "What was that?" one of the rangers asked, his face pale. Alexander turned sharply toward the cage. Leo's ears were twitching, his eyelids fluttered, and then, slowly, deliberately, he opened his eyes. "He's waking up," Dr. Mitchell said, her voice remarkably calm despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. "Everyone stay calm. Let him orient himself." Leo's massive head lifted slowly. His amber eyes swept the interior of the helicopter, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings, the humans watching him, the strange vibration and noise. For a terrifying moment, no one breathed. If Leo panicked in this confined space, the consequences could be catastrophic. But instead of thrashing or roaring, Leo simply observed. His breathing remained steady. His muscles, though tensed, didn't coil for an attack. He looked at each person in turn, and in his gaze there was something almost human, understanding, perhaps, or trust. "I think he knows we're helping him," Alexander whispered in awe. The hours that followed were tense but magical. Leo remained alert but calm, occasionally shifting his weight, but never showing aggression. The crew spoke in soft voices, maintaining an atmosphere of peace. Against all odds, man and beast shared that small metal space in the sky, united by a common purpose. "Approaching the landing zone," the pilot announced, and relief flooded through everyone aboard. Below them stretched an ocean of grass, punctuated by acacia trees and distant watering holes. This was where Leo belonged, where his strength made sense, where his instincts could guide him, where he could live as nature intended. The helicopter touched down with a soft thud, sending up a plume of red dust. The cage was carefully unloaded and placed on solid ground. A ranger approached and slowly unlocked the door, then quickly stepped back. The door swung open. Leo didn't move immediately. He sat perfectly still, as if processing this moment, understanding that his captivity was over, but somehow reluctant to leave these strange humans who had saved his life. Then his nostrils flared, catching the scent of the savannah, the smell of home. His eyes brightened with recognition. In one fluid motion, he rose to his feet and bounded from the cage. His paws touched the dry earth of his homeland, and something fundamental shifted in him. His tail began to swish. He started to run, tentatively at first, then faster and faster, his powerful muscles remembering what they were made for. The crew watched in silence as he disappeared into the tall grass, becoming one with the landscape, a shadow among shadows. "Mission accomplished," Samuel said quietly, and the entire team erupted in celebration. Months passed. The village returned to its normal rhythm, but Leo's story became part of its folklore. Parents told their children about the lost lion who found his way home. Travelers passing through stopped to hear the tale of the unprecedented rescue. Then came the drought. For weeks, no rain fell, water sources dried up, crops withered, and worst of all, a herd of desperate, thirsty elephants began moving toward the village, trampling everything in their path. The villagers tried everything, torches, drums, shouting, but nothing deterred the massive creatures. As a huge bull elephant charged toward the village center, people fled to their homes, certain that disaster was inevitable. That's when they heard it, a deep, powerful roar that shook the night air. Leo had returned. He was bigger now, stronger, his mane fuller and darker. He placed himself between the village and the elephants, issuing challenge after challenge. Through strategic movements and displays of dominance, he managed to turn the herd away, protecting the people who had once protected him. When dawn broke and the danger passed, the villagers emerged to find Leo standing guard at the village edge. An elderly man approached and bowed slightly. "You're not just a lion," he whispered. "You're our guardian." A small girl dared to step closer. "Thank you, Leo," she said softly. Leo looked at her, at the village, at the people who had given him a second chance. Then, with a final glance, he turned and walked back into the savannah. His roar still echoes there, they say, and perhaps one day, if his village needs him again, he will return. Leo's story reminds us that compassion knows no boundaries, that when we choose to help, even the wildest souls remember our kindness. But thousands of animals like Leo face threats every day from habitat loss, poaching, and climate change. They need champions willing to stand up for them. If this story touched your heart, please share it with others who believe in the power of wildlife conservation. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories of animal rescues and the unbreakable bonds between humans and nature. Leave a comment below telling us about a time you witnessed an act of kindness toward an animal. Your story might inspire someone else to make a difference. Together, we can ensure that majestic creatures like Leo continue to roam free in the wild where they belong. Hit that like button if you believe every life is worth saving, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another heartwarming story. Thank you for caring. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the greatest heroes have 4 paws and a mighty roar.